has to be discussed at a time when we're able to focus in on comprehensive tax reform. This isn't the time now. We have immediately in front of us the estate tax issue. We have immediately in front of us the 01-03 tax cuts. We have to address them. It isn't going to be easy. If there isn't a budget resolution with further reconciliation possibilities, it's going to take 60 votes. Now, if any of you can tell me how we're sure to get that, tell me. It will be off the record. I'm not sure how we do that, but that really has to be the focus in the coming months. I'm not sure how we do it. I'm not sure whether they're combined, but that has to be the first order of business. And clearly, comprehensive tax reform is an issue for next year, not this year. I'm ready.
Is it realistic to believe that individual tax increases can be limited only to high-end taxpayers when the Bush tax cuts expire at the end of the year?
Yes.
Do you think all taxes are the same? If not, what kind of taxes serve society best?
All taxes. No, huh? No, I meant that almost seriously. That's why I love town hall meetings, because the person who asks the question has to announce himself or herself. No, obviously, all taxes aren't the same. By the way, as I was writing my remarks, I was reading some material and talking with the most talented staff, if I might say so, in the Congress, the Ways and Means staff. I had the chance to serve on 4 of the subcommittees over the years of Ways and Means, with what's now Income Security, Health, Social Security, where I was able to serve as ranking after our much-loved Bob Mitsui passed away, and then, of course, Trade. So I was just going back with the staff over some materials, and my guess is if I gave you a test, and it would be a quickie if I asked all of you to take a piece of paper and answer this question. What percentage of American taxes come from payroll taxes? My guess is that most of you might not pass, because some of the rhetoric in this town is that most people don't pay taxes. People don't say income taxes, they say taxes. But it's well over 40 and perhaps over 45% of our taxes come from payroll taxes, which virtually everybody does pay. So the answer is no. All the taxes are far from the same. My guess is that we will continue to have an income tax which is progressive. We will look at taxes like payroll taxes and try to see if we can make some adjustments. It isn't clear. We have Social Security and Medicare to look at. We have the health care bill and its tax provisions to look at. Clearly, they aren't all the same. What we have to do in our society is to find ways to make intelligent decisions as to which taxes are the fairest, most equitable taxes.
Is there any reason that the U.S. should not put in place a tax on financial transactions similar to the tax on stock trades that the U.K. uses?
Well, let me just quickly cover this point, because I thought somebody might ask about the bank tax and the financial transaction taxes. I don't think the financial transaction tax idea is likely to be acceptable. We are now thinking about what we do with what's called the bank tax. As I think you know, the TARP legislation essentially required in the next few years for the administration to come up with suggestions as to how any gap in terms of repayment is filled. It now looks like 60-70% of the TARP funds will for sure be repaid. I think it's close to that already. There's likely to be a gap, and so it's important to figure out how we're going to fill it. And the financial re-regulation provision in the Senate has a tax, but different than is being discussed relating to the bank tax. I think one way or another we are going to consider this issue as to a financial fee or tax on institutions that benefited from the essential need to rescue our economy. There are various ways to go. Asset versus income, for example. The administration has proposed one path. We have been discussing intensely with the administration the various paths that may be open. If I might say so, this is an example of the importance of the Ways and Means Committee and the importance of our working with the Finance Committee, the importance of our working with the administration, and I hope the importance of working with the minority to try to find out the best way to do this if we're going to do it. And that's what we're in the middle of, and so I expect that those of you in the media are going to be asking us in the next weeks ahead how it's going, and I'll try to tell you. At this point, it isn't clear.
Moving to climate change, do you think the carbon tax provisions in the Cary Graham Energy Bill are workable? What are your ideas for funding climate change legislation?
You know, I'm not sure where we're going because it's become so politicized. I voted for the cap and trade provision. By the way, our staff and I put together the provision in terms of border adjustment. It's somewhat related to the other issues, including a VAT tax. Because one of the problems we have with trade is that, as you know, other countries have a tax system that advantages somewhat directly their producers. Our system is more complicated. So we had to be sure in the cap and trade bill that we had a provision so that if other countries did not become a party to a meaningful environmental structure and therefore gained an advantage over us economically, that we had an instrumentality to react. It was interesting, if I might say so, and I'll do this quickly, how it immediately got caught up in the polarized rhetoric of trade. They said, in quotes, it was protectionist. Protectionist. What we were doing was saying that if other countries tried to get, and there had to be a deliberate effort to gain an advantage in trade through pollution, if you want to put it directly, that we would be able to compete. So any energy legislation has to include a sensitivity to who is included and as to what happens if we're competing with those who are not included. So I think the cap and trade bill has met major resistance. I think that John Kerry and Barbara Boxer and others working with Lindsey Graham may have a way to do this that would work, that was different. All I can say is this, and this gets back to the perfect storm, and it relates, I guess, to the environment. Look, for my generation, global warming is a threat that we must address in terms of our children and our grandchildren. The assumption is that it will all work out